In this episode, we're doing something a little different. I invite 3 of you into the studio to share your unheard stories and relationship questions.
My partner passed away. I'll never move on from that.
How did you feel to see Leo finally have a father?
I get so sort of locked in my shame that I then don't become the best person in the room because I stop talking.
I have been cheated on 3 times. I was dating someone and our friends, they both got deployed to Afghanistan. My boyfriend at the time, best friend, got killed.
Are you ready to be dating now?
Are you ever ready if you don't start?
All we're doing today is we're talking about the first step. 1 every 8 to 9 weeks, you're going on a date. The average per year is 1 or 2.
What?
I got nerve damage. My life wasn't really worth living, if I'm honest. We've got 2 options. You carry on as you are, or we amputate for a better quality of life. I haven't actually talked to anyone in over 2 years. How am I going to explain in a couple of months I'm having my leg chopped off?
This is very challenging. I'm going to have my special guest join us. Before we get into it, I just wanted to mention something interesting that we've noticed recently. Around 9 in 10 of you watching these videos aren't subscribed yet. Now, no pressure at all, but if you're enjoying the content, subscribing is a super simple way to stay connected with us, and it also helps us out a ton with growing the channel. We also look at every comment, so make sure you comment with your guest ideas below, and we'll be sure to take note, and we'll try to get your favorite guest on future episodes. Please be aware that this episode discusses sensitive topics. If you're affected by anything discussed, we've included links in the show notes to organizations that can provide support. First up, we have Jo. At 44, she's never yet been in a romantic relationship. She's currently navigating a lifetime of being single while facing her fears of never finding love. We addressed her self-worth, self-esteem, and the shame that she feels in her everyday life. I think you're going to get so much from this conversation. So, without further ado, let's meet Jo. So, why are you here, Jo?
For me to love myself.
So you currently do not love yourself.
I need to accept the person that I am, love myself, accept myself, and know that I am utterly worthy of love.
All right, and just to clarify, is it self-love or is it self-worth? Self-love, to me, if you were thinking about a tree, self-love is the sun for that tree.
Mm-hmm.
What does the sun do?
Yeah.
Helps the tree grow. It's the oxygen. It's the water, right? It's the actions that allow for this beautiful tree to become larger and stronger. Self-worth is at the roots.
Yeah.
The roots of the tree.
Well, I deserve to be here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I deserve to be planted in this ground.
Yeah.
And I deserve to have this sunshine. Yeah. I deserve to have this water. Yeah. That's self-worth. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
And to your point, self-worth is being worthy, but self-love is the action. Is your question about self-love or is it about self-worth?
Self-worth.
What's the second challenge that you'd like to talk about?
For me to find love.
And what would be number 3?
Learning to live in the moment and not be waiting for my life to begin. It's learning to be happy in myself.
All 3 of those are interconnected.
Yeah.
Right? All 3 of those, by the way, are challenges and questions that I believe the majority of people have. Everything goes back to
my parents.
It's not just our parents, but it's the first caregivers.
Yeah.
The first time that we experienced what we believe was love. If you were to describe what love was like in your household early on, what was it like?
So my mum, I think my brothers had a very kind of strong, the mother-son thing was very strong. My mum is very demonstrative, very vocal. But with me and my dad, I do know that he absolutely loves me, 100%. But he's not emotionally intelligent, and he basically hasn't been the father that I've needed. I don't really remember him ever saying, I love you. So now with all the therapy and the years of maturity and sort of life experience, I think I struggled with his limitations of love and what I needed. I turned that into thinking it was that I was the problem.
Okay.
Like my dad's very fattest, liked women to have nice nails, be beautiful, is interested in who women are with, who are married to. My shame has very much come from the fact that I think I have failed my parents by not being married yet, or like not being with anybody and having a family.
Shame is a powerful word. If you think back to how the relationship with your father impacted your early relationships, not just romantically, but platonically.
Yeah.
How did it impact those relationships?
I think I tried too hard with people. I was very needy. I think I just sought validation from external sources, from everybody other than myself.
So you said that you felt like you were too needy.
Yeah.
Okay. So describe that.
When I was younger, I think I would, if somebody was potentially going to be a friend, and I met them and I liked them, I would do this. It's like, what are you doing? Can we meet up? How are you? And just like be the cat at the door.
Okay. And then you said that you were seeking validation, which most adolescents are going to seek validation, but it sounds like you placed a lot of value on other people's opinions. If you take being needy, let's say, as you described it, if you take, seeking the validation of others, etc., and you've gone through therapy, so did you or your therapist label that particular style?
Do you know what? It's really interesting, actually, because I've still not quite figured out what attachment style I am, because I think I'm a bit of both. I think I am a bit of avoidant, but I'm also, whatever the needy one is.
Anxious,
yes, yeah.
There's three main forms of attachment. One is secure, one is anxious, and one is avoidant. Anxious is when one or both of those caregivers were there for you sometimes, but other times they weren't there for you. They were there to maybe give you the hug, but not there to say, I love you. Mm-hmm. Hot, cold. And then there's the avoidant. The avoidant was a caregiver that was just not there for you. But to your point, you're absolutely right. They're combinations of anxious and avoidant, called anxious avoidant or preoccupied anxious. Mm-hmm. That is one of the most challenging attachment styles to have. Mm. When I say challenging is it presents the strongest challenge as an adult to then connect with others.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle massively to date. I would love to just be so much more casual. I mean, I am, but there's always this thing in the back of my mind that for the shame is not the fact that I haven't found love and that I'm single. The shame for me is that I have never been in a relationship with anybody. I've never had a long-term relationship with anyone. I've only ever been on a date here and there, or 2 dates or 3 dates. Like, very rarely have I ever got past 3 dates.
Okay.
The anxious avoidant thing is, when I go on dates, I either dismiss them too soon, or if it's somebody that I like, I reveal too much and I'm too needy.
How do you know that?
I think when I meet somebody that I actually like on a date, I get too excited, because it's very rare for me to A, fancy somebody, and B, have that connection. And I think because it's been so many years where I've never had it, so I feel so inexperienced in love.
Okay.
So when I connect with somebody, I think I've got that limited thing of not realizing that, okay, well, it's great to have a connection with someone, but you also need to have, the attraction and the commitment,
Right. You're saying that, okay, because of this anxious attachment, right, that in itself is making it very hard to date. And I will say that that's definitely in the textbook, of dating, is that if you have an anxious attachment style or you have an avoidant attachment style, it's very, very hard to date. A matter of fact, if you have an anxious attachment style, do you know who mostly you as an anxious person go after? An avoidant.
Oh, right. That's interesting.
Not the secure.
The thing that I had a shower thought recently.
Okay.
So my dad has basically been ill since I since I've been born. He had his first heart attack the year after I was born. He's still here now. He's 93. I would say 9 times out of 10, all the guys that I have dated over the last 2 years have ended up going in some sort of hole. And I do wonder whether subconsciously I am attracted to men that have some sort of weakness.
I want to unpack all of these. And I think that you're absolutely right to say, okay, I'm seeing that this source down from where I was born is impacting me later in life. All right. So I'm with you there. But help fill in some of these relationships for me. Mm-hmm. So you said that you have never been beyond a third date. The vast majority of dates have been 1, 2, or 3 dates.
Yeah.
Okay. The once or twice that have been beyond, how long were those relationships?
I think the one person who I might have, let's say, dated for 1 or 2 months was somebody that I was actually friends with first.
Okay.
And he told me he was in love with me. And I was in my early 20s. And I wasn't attracted to him. And it took me a long time to realise that, in my young, sort of immature way, thought, oh no, I couldn't be with him because I'm not attracted to him. But he was also the first person that I'd want to speak to when I woke up in the morning. And he'd be the last person that I'd want to speak to before I went to bed, and made me laugh so much. But I kind of pulled and pushed and, no, I'm not interested. Yes, I'm interested. And then I went and lived in South America. And then, we kind of got together, and then we didn't. And then we did. So we kind of had a thing for a couple of months. But that is literally the most I've ever had. But then in terms of, meeting somebody who I didn't know, there's one person who I've dated more than 3 times in the last couple of years. Everybody else, there's never been more
There's
than
never
2
been.
or 3.
So you've had one person out of that group who's confessed love for you. Have you ever been in love?
No. And I can't even imagine it. I get really scared that I will never know what it feels like to be in love.
Are you almost doubting your capability to love?
A little bit, yeah. Because obviously the longer that time goes on, the less hopeful I become.
You would like to be in love.
Very much so.
But you don't believe you will find love.
Yeah.
So what about physical intimacy? Because we've already covered you haven't been emotionally intimate with a man. Yeah. What about physically intimate?
Yes, I have. So sex has definitely got better in the last 2 or 3 years. I'm just done with not having sex. So in my 20s, I had a lot of one-night stands because I thought, if I have sex with this person, I'll get them to like me. And of course, that's just ridiculous. And then in my 30s, I didn't really sleep with anybody because I never met anyone and I didn't want to do any one-night stands. So in my head, my rule was I'm only going to sleep with somebody if I start dating them. But then, of course, that didn't happen.
Have you have friends?
Yeah, really good group of friends. I'm very lucky.
So you've experienced what it's like to have a good friend.
Yes.
And you've experienced what it's like, I'm presuming, to have trust and commitment in a relationship, whether it's a platonic relationship. So you've had that, but you haven't had all 3.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is that is what love is. Love is having the emotional and physical intimacy. So having the intimacy, having the friendship, and then also having the trust and commitment. Mm-hmm. You have all of that. That's love. Mm-hmm. So what you've told me is I haven't been in love, Paul.
Yeah.
So you just said that you go on an average of 9 dates? 1 every 8 to 9 weeks, you're going on a date. All right. Now, do you think that is above the average, at the average, or below the average?
I would say it's below the average.
You say it's below the average?
Yeah.
You are way above average, Joe. The average is 1 or 2.
What?
1 or 2. You think, everyone's out going on a date once a month. But no, it's important to understand the reality versus what your perception is.
Yeah.
Because your perception is probably, I'm not doing much. I need to be doing more. Look, but actually you are doing well in terms of meeting people, connecting, going on dates. So this is a positive. Now, what are you using to meet people? Or is it The apps?
I
What
was
else?
for a while using the apps, and they just make me feel really shit about myself. Like, lots of my friends will be like, just say yes to everybody. You know, you've got to be in it to win it. Meh, 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 meh. I'm not going to lower my standards just to get yeses, because that's the thing I'm trying to get away from, the seeking the validation.
What are your standards?
On the date, as long as we're having a good conversation, you know, and you're looking at me and not sort of on your phone, sort of wanting the time to go away, then that's the initial. Do you know what I mean? In an ideal world, I just want to have shits and giggles. I want them to be silly and fun, not take life too seriously. And that's the most important thing.
Okay.
And kind.
Okay. What would you say the reasons for the fall off at each stage? And was it your decision or was it his decision?
If I wasn't interested in them, it was my decision. And if I was interested in them, it was their decision.
Okay. But so if you were interested in them, what happened?
Something's happened where they've realised they have gone into a hole, they need to invest time elsewhere.
So now, two other areas. Then let's start looking at solutions.
Okay.
So we've touched upon self-worth. We've touched upon the finding of love. But in terms of living for you in the moment, where do you think your challenge is around that stem?
There's so much of the world I want to explore, and I kind of hover between knowing how exciting it could be going on my own, because there's so many opportunities open. And I have done one or two, like I went to Mexico a few years ago by myself.
Okay.
And I haven't done another big trip since on my own. And there's just, I don't know what it is. There's something niggling where I just think, okay, I probably could do it, but I'd rather do it with somebody else.
Yes. Yeah, and I would imagine it makes certain times of the year, especially holidays.
Yeah, I've always really struggled around Christmas, New Year. I never get to do what I would love to do. And my family have never been we've never really celebrated Christmas and done the whole family, lots of food, TV, singing, drinking kind of vibe, which is what I would want to do. You can't help but become painfully aware of your loneliness. My brother has had this big extension put on his house, and now I can start going to my brother's, which is nice. But also I do get very triggered around going to my brother's at Christmas and all the kids being there, and I'm the only single person there. And I've started feeling, I mean, he doesn't know this, but I feel I can't help it, and it brings me shame. But like when I see his kids who have now got having girlfriends and boyfriends, I feel such shame. And it's awful because I don't want to be that person, you know, but I get so sort of locked in my shame that I then don't become the best person in the room because I stop talking.
Now, you mentioned that your father is going through health challenges now. How do you believe that impacting the shame that you feel?
It's hard because I think I am ever hopeful that every time I go home and I see my dad, it's like there's this little thing in me where I think we're still gonna connect. And I try really hard, you know, to have some kind of connecting conversation with him, and it's just lost. But I've just got to accept that he's not that type of father, and he's not that type of human. He's just, he doesn't understand from the world of therapy. You know, he's 93. He's kind of quite Victorian in his attitudes. And he shows his love by talking about money and business and how's your house and how's the car running. And, you know, that's how he shows he cares. And it's the only way he knows how.
He's not loving you in the way that you need to be loved.
I feel a bit teary now.
From the one source that you need it from most, you don't have. Yeah. And I can't help but think that you're aware of how much time he has. What would it mean to you for him to be able to express to his little girl And what would you like for him to say?
I'm proud of you. And I don't know, because he has told me that he loves me sort of a lot more recently. And it was nice, before I went yesterday. I was in Newcastle yesterday, and I went to say goodbye and just kind of lay on the bed with him, and he's like, holds my hand and like kissed my hand and, said he loved me. But I think I want him, I just want him to say something like, I'm proud of you and you're amazing as you are.
That's self-worth. You are 44. You've been waiting 44 years for that. This feeling, you're not alone in this feeling at all. At all. Here's where I would begin. One of my most favorite exercises ever that I've ever handed out to a client that I've ever received is simply writing a letter.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever written a letter to your father? You have.
Actually, when I first started writing it, it was all about, oh, I've let you down and blah, 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 blah. And my therapist was like, that's not what you want to do.
Correct.
You need to send him a letter that just says how much you love him and, what you love about him and all of that stuff. And I did.
Okay.
And I didn't get the response.
Okay.
I wrote him that letter. He never spoke to me about it. My mum, and that's the other thing, like my mum has always been the spokesperson for both of them. But I've always needed to hear the words from my dad. My mum rang me and said, your dad's crying. And that obviously meant a lot.
Right.
And he said he's going to write you a letter back. He never did.
He never did. Okay. Can I give you another exercise?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It is similar to what you did, but there's some distinct differences. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say you're going to write a letter, but you're not going to seek any validation in the letter. What would you do?
I would write a letter and just say, I love you.
So close. So here's what I would suggest is, Dad, I love you and I adore you. Mm-hmm. Part one. And here are all of the things that are missing and have been missing. I just want you to say that I'm proud of you and that's it. Mm-hmm. I walk around with shame and I don't want to walk around with shame. I don't want you to, I feel you feel this way about me, etc. Right? Mm. You are very specific in how you feel because this is how you feel and this is what you needed, right? Mm. You wanted those things. But then here's the kicker. The kicker is the third part. You know what the third part is? And regardless of you writing a letter back to me,
yeah,
regardless of you looking me in the eye and saying that you are perfect the way you are, regardless of all of those things, I forgive you. Mm-hmm. So you are forgiving. And this is a forgiveness letter.
Yeah.
This is not a expression. This is a forgiveness letter. And then you end it with, all the niceties that you would end with the letter. But that's the hook. Mm-hmm. The hook is that you are saying that I am going to tell you exactly how I feel. And on top of it, I'm going to forgive you without you even having to respond. Mm-hmm. And what that does is that begins the reassignment of the attachment. Because ultimately, I think that's the most important thing you could do. You have to get to a place of secure attachment. And one place to get to secure attachment is to be able to have that place of forgiveness for the caregiver that created the anxiousness. You've said that you're needy. You've talked about shame. You have positioned, just in this conversation, short conversation, you've presented several what I would call negative beliefs. Mm-hmm. A lot of those negative beliefs, if not all, could be unfounded. But these are beliefs. So because they are your beliefs, mm-hmm. they are your reality. Mm-hmm. And so you have to reframe these negative beliefs. And the best way to do this is to take one, is to like create a list, mm-hmm. in essence. So you create a list of the negative beliefs, and then you create a list of the reframing, and you create a list of the evidence. Mm-hmm. But let's do an example is, what is one negative belief that you truly have, that you believe?
Well, the one that comes to mind, I don't want to say it because I don't want to believe it, but
Okay.
The negative belief that I have is that I'm never going to meet anyone.
So you believe this. That's a negative belief. I, Joe, believe I will never have a committed relationship. All right. So now, the first question that you ask yourself is what is the evidence and or facts that this statement is true? Do you have evidence and facts that this statement is true?
No.
Okay, so you know that.
Yeah. I mean, I've done this exercise.
Okay, oh, there you go. Okay, so now there's another part of this exercise, and that is okay, what is the evidence or the facts to refute
Yeah.
that? So what is? So give me 3 pieces of evidence to refute the fact that
Somebody has been in love with me.
okay, someone has been in love with you. Absolutely. Okay. What's something else?
I do date.
Okay.
I'm only halfway through my life.
And I would even add to that, you've done therapy, right? You are strengthening your attachment.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a phenomenal group of friends. You're going to widen out your pipeline in how you meet people. You're probably in terms of your best, if you look through your life, you're at your best self. You look damn good, right? You've got style. I mean, I saw the trousers when you came in, right? You got flavor. You add 2 points for flavor, you know what I mean? So the list, we can keep going.
Yeah.
We can keep going. But now you see that evidence. So now to make this exercise truly work, what it requires is for you to have that written out.
Yeah.
You have that written out in your house, the evidence written out in your house. You look at it every day. You say it every day. Maybe you say it once a week, right? But you continue to remind. And what that does is it reframes your belief. If I were to limit it to 3, because I love rules of 3, the 3 things that I believe that you should change or add or edit to your search of finding is, one is I would suggest using all of online. But when I say online, using online, the best way to approach online, quite honestly, is to not look for someone who you believe is the right person. Not search for your type.
Yeah.
So that's one that you could do. Give me 2 more, because we talked about a lot, negating beliefs.
Yeah.
And posting that.
Yeah, I can do the negation beliefs.
Okay, so you could do that. Okay,
Yeah.
so and how do you plan to do that?
I have lots of Post-its.
Okay.
Fluorescent Post-its all over the house.
All right, done. So with evidence.
Yeah.
Because we know it takes 60 days to create a habit. So 60 days of daily looking at this at it daily. Okay, so 60 days, you're looking at that daily. You keep adding to it, looking at it daily, and then you write the letter.
I can do the letter.
Okay, you could do the letter.
I don't know whether it'll get sent, but I'll do the letter.
And you're right, it's your prerogative whether you send it or not, but that you fully write that letter. You do those 3, you've created change. And the beauty in change is that sometimes you just need a 1% change. And 1% change, you know what that does over time?
Grows and grows.
And it puts you in an entirely different destination than where you were going today. Just 1%. So if you make a 5, 10, 15, 20% change, it's entirely different, right? Entirely different. And I think that's the beauty of life, is that for every day that we have left, there's opportunity for change. I saw your points, and I see your life running throughout it, and I see your father as the source, and that's this visual that I have, and that's the reason why I'm so proud that you are going to write the letter, because I think that is the most systemic change you could make. Is in that.
Yeah.
Yep. Fair enough. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Jo has been an excellent first guest, and I feel so proud that she is going to write that letter. Sometimes we can be held back by just one thing, and I hope that writing the letter could be just the thing that she needs to cause systemic change in her life. Every episode of this podcast comes to life with the help of Adobe Express, the quick and easy create anything app from Adobe, even if you don't have any design experience. I couldn't be more grateful for how much making this podcast lights me up. Getting to have these conversations, sharing stories, and connecting with you all, it's the work that makes me feel truly alive. But finding that kind of work doesn't happen overnight. I've taken risks, switched lanes, and followed paths that have felt uncertain, all in the hope of doing something meaningful. Whether you're launching a new business, starting a side hustle, or simply putting your ideas out into the world, you've got to be willing to take that first step. And Adobe Express is the tool that helps make those steps easier. It's got ready-to-go templates and AI-powered features to create professional designs, social media posts, and logos in minutes, whether you're an amateur or a seasoned designer. It's free to try. Just search Adobe Express and see where it takes you. Next up, I speak with Heather, a single mother and aesthetics nurse who is adjusting to life after the recent, sudden, and tragic loss of her partner, Dave, when he was just 37 years old. She's currently grappling with grief and the complexities of starting to date again, all while continuing to be a strong mother for her young son. Heather's journey is one of resilience and self-discovery, and one I know you will find truly inspiring. Now, let's meet Heather. Why are you here?
My partner passed away unexpectedly. I feel like mainly guilt about how do I move on with my life. I feel quite empty, quite detached from feelings.
You're not experiencing any joy.
Not really. My son, I adore my son. He's my life and world. But personally, no, not really.
Can we go back to right before Dave?
Yeah.
So when you think about your relationship history,
Yeah.
were they long relationships, short-term relationships?
I haven't had any over 3 years. Since I had my son, he's been my main focus. My son doesn't see his dad. So to let somebody into our space is a real big thing to me. To let somebody meet your child is a huge thing to me.
That's massive.
Yeah. So Leo is and always will be my priority.
So your son Leo, you said that he doesn't have a relationship with his father.
No.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Why is that? Is it that the father doesn't want to?
He's not a good person, perhaps not a good influence for my son. So I would love Leo to have a father that could be in his life. I would love Leo to have that. However, that is not the best thing for him.
Okay, that's fair. So you had a relationship with the father for a certain amount of time.
Yes.
So you'd say, okay, not a good guy.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the relationships you had prior to Dave were with men that you wouldn't put in the good guy category?
Yes.
Okay, so that was the common theme. Why do you believe that was a trend?
Because I hadn't ever really got any attention. When I started to get it, good or bad, I followed up on it, or should I say, maybe my lack of confidence is why I, sort of getting into these relationships, my lack of, at the time, maybe more. I don't think I've grown a little bit more, but the lack of kind of self-worth, how I felt about myself, maybe not good enough. I put up with things that, I'm now 43, that I wouldn't dream of putting up with.
And so it sounds like you had a series of relationships, some good, but mostly not good, with these guys that were showing you the attention momentarily, but we're not great guys. So you go through many years of this. You have your son Leo. So was Dave? Did you feel like Dave was different than
Very different
than all these guys?
He couldn't have been any more different. Friendly, easygoing, laid back, looked different to my the stereotypical guy that I probably would have gone for before. I found him really interesting to talk to, and I like being around people like that can encourage me, inspire me. So we became friends initially, which again, I've never done that before.
So you were friends first?
Yes.
I like that. And then you felt so comfortable with Dave, you introduced Leo to Dave.
Yes. And that was very natural.
Leo really took to
he did,
Dave.
yeah.
Do you think he was he almost
Father
like a father?
figure. Yeah,
He
yeah,
was a
yeah,
father
yeah,
figure.
yeah.
And how did you feel to see Leo finally have a father in his life?
He loved it, and that's all I've ever wanted for Leo. But you can't just get with a guy so he can be a father to a child. You know, that's not right either. So it's got to be right, hasn't it, for me? And then you've got to see how things go with your child.
Yes. You were dating each other. Yeah. You were committed to each other. Were you talking about marriage in the future?
I can remember was talking quite early on about sort of having children. He said, I probably wouldn't have any more children. I said, I never dreamt of Leo being, an only child of things. And then as time went on, it went the other way around, and he was like, we will. He used to call me H. We will, you know.
Dave was at a place where he wanted to have a child.
It was, I'd said, oh no, and then he was like, we will, you know. And I would have. I know, because I know he would have had my back.
You're finally in a relationship. Yeah. Your son loves this man, Dave. You're talking about building a life together, a child, a home, right? What happens to Dave?
It was a Friday morning, and I was at work. I could see his mum calling. They loved doing Sunday lunch and things together. So I thought, she'll be calling to invite Leo and I for Sunday lunch. Didn't answer because I couldn't finish work. Just getting in my car, and I thought, I'll call his mum about what I'm driving. And as I got in the car, she was calling me again.
Okay.
And she said, it's Dave, he's died. And I guess you just can't believe that when someone tells you that.
How did you tell your son?
It's the worst thing I've ever had to do in my life. It's like breaking your child's heart. You never want to do that, and you never want to see them hurting like that. Bringing yourself to say it, and then that's also accepting that's actually happened. So you say something out loud, it's real then.
Yes.
So not only did I have to say it out loud, I had to say it, to my boy.
Thank you for sharing that. I know how challenging it is to talk about someone you love passing. So a big question I'm sure on your mind is, are you ready to be dating now?
If a relationship's ended, it's usually because, either there's one of two things: you've ended it because you've realised you don't want to be with that person, or they've ended it. So when that person's been taken away, it's a very different experience.
It is. There's various levels of trauma. What you have faced is severe trauma. Yeah. To your point, it's another level. Yeah. And severe trauma creates a more severe reaction. Yeah. Because ultimately what you're doing is you now, as a result of the trauma, you are now seeing and operating in the world differently. You could have more or less emotion.
I don't feel like I've got a lot of feeling or anything.
We're in the holiday season. Does that weigh on you at all, being in a holiday season and not having Dave?
Yeah, I think it does, and I think more. I haven't felt as great the last couple of weeks, and maybe subconsciously that could be why. Because obviously it's family time. It's it's that special time, isn't it, for families and being together.
Have you? Because I know that one of the topics you wanted to talk about was, am I ready to date? Mm-hmm. Right? Have you already tried to start dating?
Yeah.
You have? Mm-hmm. Okay, and how is that going?
So many feelings of guilt. Is it too soon? What a lovely guy this is. However, where are my feelings? That isn't the right person. Or is that because I'm so numb?
So the question is a powerful question. This is one that does come up quite a bit. And there is an exercise that I've put together that I would love to do with you if you're open.
Of course.
Are you open?
Yeah, I'm open.
See this?
Yeah.
We have a green card. Mm-hmm. We have a red card. then we have a yellow card. Okay, so I want you to hold on to these.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So this is my green light readiness quiz. So the whole idea around this quiz is to help you determine if you're ready to date.
Okay.
If you date too soon, what could happen? You could be across from a great guy and you could push them away. Or the opposite could happen. You could be across from a terrible person, but your need and desire to be with someone allows them into your life. So you can end up pushing great partners away or pulling partners who are terrible for you as a result. So you have to be ready. You know, I'm going to ask you a question. And if the answer is yes, that is going to be a green card. All right, so you show me that green card.
Yeah.
If the answer is on occasion or sometimes, that's a yellow card. If the answer is never, that's a red card. Okay. The first question is on emotional stability. Okay, the question is this. Can I think about Dave without overwhelming sadness or anger?
Yeah, it's not overwhelming anymore.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair. Second, do I feel like dating would be honoring Dave rather than betraying Dave? Okay. Let's talk about that for a second. So you feel like it would be...
Like cheating? Because none of us ended it.
That's a good analysis. Okay, let's keep going. Number 3. Do I have a sense of who I am as an individual outside of being a parent to Leo and a grieving partner to Dave? Okay. And give me your, because you were right on that. So what?
Probably since I had Leo, I probably lost myself. And I don't think I've ever got that back.
Next question. Am I open to forming a meaningful emotional bond with someone new, or does the idea still feel numb or forced? That's what I would have answered for you as well. Yeah, and why do you say that?
So the first part of your question, I am open to it, absolutely, and I want to. However, the numbness is very real.
Yes, okay. Do I have the emotional and physical energy to invest in getting to know someone without feeling drained or resentful? Okay, and why do you answer it that way?
Probably even still 6 months ago, I was at the doctor's having blood tests because I thought there was something wrong with me because I felt so drained.
You know, so Heather, I'm so glad that we did this.
Yeah, that was really, yeah.
Because without question, the results of this are clear. You're not ready. Now, I want to unpack these questions a bit. The best gift I can give you is to give you some actions.
Thank you.
Because one thing I can already tell is that you don't need anyone. You want someone, but you don't need anyone. And the only way you get to that is by being someone who has worked hard, in their life. And so I believe that when I give you these actions, you're going to be able to go out and do this.
Okay.
But before we even do that, let me ask you, how does it feel for me to tell you that I don't think you're ready?
A little bit hard. Don't always want to hear it, do you?
Right.
Even though you're right. Yeah, I totally agree.
Right. And I think that's the beauty of this particular exercise, is because I'm going to outline what you can do. Because what so many of us do is feel like, okay, I have to do something, so let me just go start dating. Yeah. But dating, it turns out, might not be the best use of your time and energy for you. because you were honest with those answers, which is the first step.
Yes.
Now we can actually get the work done. Okay. So the emotional stability, you gave a green. All right. So we're good there. The second question, when I said, do you feel like dating is honoring or betraying him? This is around guilt. This is guilt. And the issue here is that, and I wrote this down, is that we have to reframe guilt because it allows you to honor Dave's past, but at the same time, embrace your future. Here's some exercises that I would suggest you do. A couple things you could do. One is, I always say, write a letter. Letters are so powerful. Write a letter to Dave explaining how dating aligns with your new desire to live fully. And at the same time, you're going to cherish his memory. And then whenever these feelings of guilt begin to creep in, because guilt will creep in, you know what you do? You just reflect on the letter.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good. I think because I felt so closed and probably maybe detached, I've almost stopped myself from doing anything like that, because I will find it, because it's opening up, isn't it? It's opening up. It's feeling things that I know I need to feel to process, but I don't do it because it hurts, I suppose.
Yes. But you know why I think that activity in particular will be so great for you is because you are so honest.
Yeah.
So you'll put all of those emotions and feelings into that letter. And when you reflect back on it, you know, it's like you're having a conversation with him. One other, I'll give you just a second on this, is that volunteering to a cause important to Dave.
Okay.
What better way to honor him?
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
That's going to reduce your guilt, because you're going to know, hey, you know what? I'm showing up for Dave every week at this. Think of how beautiful that would be to volunteer.
Yeah.
That's embracing him, right? And honoring him, and that allows you to reduce the guilt, and then be able to embrace the future. Okay. So those are two ways that I fully believe will help you to reduce the guilt. Next up, I asked you about, do you have a sense of who you are as an individual outside of being a parent to Leo and a partner to Dave? And you said no. This is about self-identity. And the reason why this is so important is because when you're entering a relationship with someone, if you don't have your own identity, you will become dependent on the identity of the relationship or the partner. So you want to have your own identity. And oftentimes when we become parents, when we enter relationships, we lose that identity. You've admitted to this.
Yeah, I kind of, like, if someone says, what are your hobbies? I haven't got any. Because I go to work, and I'm lucky, I enjoy my job, I'm lucky. But I did go to work and I be a mum.
Now, it's so interesting that you said, I have no hobbies, because what do you think I'm going to suggest?
Find a hobby.
What is one thing right now that you can identify that you have a passion around, especially maybe that you had as a little girl that you haven't ever pursued?
And I've done lots of like boot camps and things over the years prior to Leo, and I did used to really, I do enjoy like things like that.
Okay.
Well, I say did.
So how about we change it to do? So I need you to identify a hobby. And this could be you're doing it every week, every 2 weeks, every month, but you're doing something that you can derive passion from and enjoyment. You're on this long journey, okay? The journey is actually never ending. And opposed to, I think a lot of information comes out, you need to be at the end of the journey. You need to be done.
There now. I want everything to be fixed, and you go, Heather, you're fine. We've done all the all the green cards. Here, Heather, have these vitamins that I take. But
it doesn't work.
No,
that way.
I know.
We know it doesn't work that way. So instead, I want you to imagine this journey that you're on, and all we're doing today is we're talking about the first step. Okay. That's it. And my only promise is that if you make that first step by doing all of these, the next step is going to be a little bit easier. And then if you make 2 steps in, you know what? The third step is going to be easier. You could definitely do the third step. And then if you do 3 steps, you know what you get out there? The 4th step is easy. And by the time you're 4, 5, 6 steps in, you're going to look and say, oh my God, I think I'm halfway through this. That's how it works. So now, that's one. And I'm going to give you a second one. The second one is, I would like for you to, and we have a guest who truly compelled me. Do you know Dr. Tara Swart?
Yeah.
She's put me onto the vision. I fully believe in the vision board. What I want you to do is I want you to create a vision board of your dreams. Let's identify 4 or 5 dreams that you have. Just that exercise alone is phenomenal because you've been so focused on being a great mom, being a great partner, that you probably haven't spent much time thinking about your own dreams. On the vision board, what I want you to do is I want you to think about the dreams. You'll cut out a depiction of the dreams from a magazine, or you could print it off online and then hang that vision board up and just look at it every day. Walk by it every day. Remind yourself. And what Dr. Tara Swart has taught me is that by doing that, what we end up doing is we're programming our entire life. It's not just our mind, but to be more perceptive of all of the things that can guide us to that dream. By placing this out into the world, I'm closer to the path on the journey to getting to it. Next, are you open to forming a meaningful connection with someone new? Or does the idea still feel numb or forced? You said you're open to the connection, but you still feel numb.
Yes.
All right. So what I would love for you to do is start with low stakes social interactions, like meeting friends for coffee, joining a book club, attending a fitness group.
Oh, yes.
What these things do, and you can combine this with the hobby, but the idea is to reduce the anxiety around meeting people, right? When we are in relationships that are super, super, super loving, we can cocoon ourselves and we stop having all or we slow down on the interactions that we normally have. And so this is your opportunity to just begin to flex your charm and your charisma and your small talk, which is a skill.
I do feel like I can kind of like talk to anyone. Like I can. You probably.
I think you can too.
Yeah, I can. However, I'm just friendly, but I don't. I can speak to guys like I probably can to females. Like I don't feel awkward, but I think sometimes that can come across as because some men think that if a woman speaks to them, they automatically want to jump into bed with them.
Yep.
And I don't.
So with this, where I would steer you is to look more so at emotional connection, period. So that could be platonic. That could be just simply talking to the other people in your swim group and meeting them for coffee. And because remember, here's the question. The question is, am I open to forming a meaningful emotional bond? You are. Does the idea still feel numb or forced, right? So emotional connection is about your readiness and your willingness and your openness to form new connections with people. Doesn't have to be romantic.
Yeah.
It could just be you're widening your social circle. Okay. You met Dave. He was not the person you would have selected.
No.
Not the person at all. And then you became friends first. That's the answer. Yeah. It's that, work on selecting great friends, establishing those emotional connections. That's the muscle I want you to build. Okay. Time and energy. Do you have the emotional and physical energy to invest in getting to know someone without feeling drained or resentful? So the best exercise here that I have for you is implement time blocking to schedule intentional me time for your hobbies, for your exercise, etc. So the whole idea here is, and one thing that I didn't realize, but you've said this a few times, is like you feel drained because you're on the go, you're on the go, you're on the go. I often feel this way. But one thing that has helped me tremendously is blocking my schedule to literally block, this is Paul self-care time. Yeah. Now the question is, when you do it, do you feel guilty? You deserve that time. And if you could begin to take that time and block it, and then you can take that time and block it and not feel any guilt, that is you feeling, that's you protecting your time. Yeah. That's you energizing yourself. And that's going to help you to feel more energized to be able to allocate, to someone else. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you.
There. All right. So with all of these, you do all of these, you're one step on that journey. I want you to revisit the questions in the quiz. And once you are answering 4 to 5 of them,
okay,
green, you're ready.
Thank you.
You're ready. I'll leave you with this, unless you have any other questions. I'll leave you with this, and that is the healing of loss. The best way, I believe, to honor those who we've lost is for us to reinvest in ourselves, And I know for a fact, I haven't met Dave, but I already know he would want you to be doing these things, because everything I've outlined, you know what? When you do it, what happens to you? You become better. Yeah. You become happier. You become healthier. You even become a better parent for Leo. You become a better example for him, right? Are these things that Dave would want? Absolutely. Is that honoring him? Absolutely, right? So you do those things, and what you'll do is you'll just realize, I'm like, you know what? I'm actually feel really good right now. I now feel ready. But that's the work that needs to be done.
Thank you.
Fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You got it. I have entire optimism for you. You have the ability to do it.
And I will do it.
So, as we say in the States, the ball is in your court.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
I feel so grateful to Heather for sharing her story with us today, and hope she quickly finds the peace and strength to move forward through these extremely difficult times, using these new steps that she has taken from our conversation. Finally, I have the privilege of meeting Emmalee, a former Army sergeant who is adapting to life with a prosthetic leg after losing her own due to chronic pain. She is courageously navigating the complexities of dating and intimacy as she embarks on this new chapter of her life. And for this one, I brought in a special guest who many of my Married at First Sight family will know all too well. You don't want to miss this. So let's get to it. So what would you say that you both learned about relationships from the military?
Dating-wise, relationships in the military, I've had 4 relationships in my life. 3 have been with military men, and I have been cheated on 3 times by them 3 military men. You're in like a bubble, and there's a lot of cheating that goes on, if I'm honest. That's put me off dating for a long time. The military is a male-dominant environment. It's not equal females to males. And you can't be friends with someone because the wives or husbands potentially could get jealous. I have quite a lot of male friends. I just get on with males better than females, if I'm honest. But I used to have their wives or the girlfriends messaging me on social media, asking me what they're up to. And it was becoming very stressful. And sometimes they were doing bad things, but it wasn't my place to say.
So not only did you experience this in terms of observations with other people, but then you experienced it as far as having boyfriends who were cheating on you.
Yeah.
So did you have any healthy romantic relationship while you were in the military?
No. Well, sorry, saying that, I did, I was dating someone from when I was 16 till I was 18, and we got on well with the same age. And then our friend, so we were 18 at the time, they both got deployed to Afghanistan. My boyfriend at the time, best friend, got killed. He was 18-year-old, and our relationship obviously just became rocky from that. No fault of his.
So you were in the military, you said, for 12 years.
Yeah, 12 years.
Why did you leave the military?
So I got medically discharged in August 2022 due to a leg injury I sustained in service. My life wasn't really worth living, if I'm honest. The limb, I felt like a burden to my friends and family.
That's a profound statement.
Yeah.
Life wasn't worth living.
Yeah.
So at that moment, when you say your life wasn't worth living, you were consciously thinking this.
Yeah, honestly, it was awful. I was a burden. I was stuck in, quite isolated. I didn't want to go out anywhere because I felt quite self-conscious of people looking at me like limping around. And I was like 29 then, and it was just awful. Everything was like, it was like how I explain it was like a black cloud over me, if I'm honest. And I met a surgeon at James Cook Hospital in Middlesbrough, which is ex-military. I had my 10 years of medical documents with me from the full 10 years I was in like chronic pain. And he obviously knew my backstory, and he said, look, Emmalee, I don't really need to look at this. You've brought the full evidence here. We've got two options. You carry on as you are, or we amputate for a better quality of life. But there's a 50% chance that you'll be still in the pain you're in now.
With the procedure, with the amputation?
With the amputation. So there was a risk, 50% chance that I could still have the nerve damage, be in the same pain as I was.
Oh, my goodness.
But I took it. That 50% chance was hope I never had. And I know it's still 50%, but luckily it worked out and I don't have any pain anymore. So I told my friends and family, and I had a lot of negative comments. Wow, would you want to chop your leg off? You're going to ruin your life. My mum wasn't on board at first. I'm very close to my mum. They didn't think I was taking it seriously, like you're having a limb chopped off at the end of the day, which I understood. It's my life. It's my body. People can't feel the pain I was going through. And I looked healthy, that's the thing. It looked fine, but inside it wasn't. And that's what I had to try and convince people, like I'm in agony here.
What was their concern with you being, with you having the amputation?
I think the concern was how I'd react after I lost my leg, like if I was going to regret it, like it's not going to grow back, or how I'm going to cope. So I had the amputation on the 5th of May 2023. Okay. So I don't know how many months that is, maybe 17 months now post-op. So it's now at 30, I've got my life back.
No pain.
No pain.
So the 50% worked out.
Worked out.
No regrets.
No regrets. Just a few months before my amputation, I was like, there's no point to trying to start a new relationship or talk to anyone when, how am I going to explain in a couple of months I'm having my leg chopped off? It's hard when you first get to know someone anyway. So trying to say, look, in a couple of months I'm having a leg amputated, it's a big deal for anybody to accept.
Sure.
So I decided not to bother, and I haven't been on the dating scene since, not talked to anyone at all, not seen anyone, not even been out on a date.
Let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
So you haven't talked to anyone.
No.
But have you been on the dating apps?
I do have Tinder, but I just wanted to go on, and I put a picture of me on. Obviously, you can see my leg. I'm an amputee in a dress, a nice picture, and there's over a few pictures of me on holiday, stood in the sea with my leg out. So people can see, if they were to look at my profile, that I'm an amputee. I just feel like, do people want to date me because I'm disabled? Do you know, some guys say, oh, I want to date her or sleep with her because she's fat, or I'm thinking in my own head, do they just want to date me because of that? Because there's something, I don't know if you know of it, but something called devotees. I learned about it when I first became an amputee. People seek out people that are disabled just because of the disability. And it's big. I get sleazy inboxes all the time.
Do you?
Yeah.
What do they say?
Can you take your stump off and massage it for me?
So that happens quite a bit.
There's fake profiles, amputee lover, or you get added, and I'm quite open on my social media. I do have a YouTube channel, but I haven't posted on there in a while to try and help other people that went through chronic pain and just talk about the amputation process of having the staples removed. And so that's the reason I created my YouTube channel.
So you haven't dated.
No.
You currently live alone,
Yeah.
but you'd like to be in a relationship.
Yeah. I feel like I want someone to create memories with. Since leaving the military, I've been quite isolated as well. Like, because in the military, you're scattered everywhere. I left home at 16, so I don't really have many friends where I live. So I've got quite a big family. We all live in Whitby, which is great. But sometimes you want to spend time with other people. It would be good to have someone that pushes you to like achieve your goals, and someone just to come home to, or them to come home to you, you know, and just like spend time with and create memories. It's not all about the physical. It's just someone.
Are you lonely?
Well, yeah, I'd say I am.
Do you believe that you were worthy to be loved?
I think so. Like, I am a kind person.
Romantically, do you believe that you've ever had romantic love in your
No,
life?
never.
Ever?
No, because they wouldn't cheat on me if they loved me, would they?
Do you believe that love will happen for you?
Since my amputation, I feel like me getting back out there is hard. In my head, I feel like I'm thinking, well, why would they want to date someone that's got a leg missing when they could date someone that's got 2 legs? And
This is a hard one.
yeah,
This is very challenging. It is so challenging that not only do I want to give you some thoughts here, but I brought in a special guest
okay.
to give you some thoughts.
Hi. Yeah. You?
You're right. Yeah. Hi guys. Just me. How are you?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Hello, darling. How are you? You're
Yeah,
right.
not bad, thanks. Oh, got makeup on in
No,
there.
it's all right. Don't worry about it.
Emmalee, do you know who this is?
Emily.
You know who this is? You've seen her before.
Yeah, of course. I follow her on social media.
Oh, so you are connected with Jay on social media?
Yeah.
What was it about Jay that gravitated you towards her?
I just feel like Jay, like, doesn't let it affect her. And I actually inboxed her when I first seen her on the TV saying it's just so inspiring to see that you don't let it, like, more like you embrace it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, and I need to do that.
And so that's why, Jay, it's so important for you to be here, because I'd love for you to be able just to unpack.
I went on a show called Married at First Sight. You get matched with a particular individual, but you don't meet each other until you're at the end of the aisle. And I specifically remember the feeling of, if he turns around now and sees my arm and his face drops, I'm going to be gutted, because that's the initial reaction that I don't want. You have all these different things that go on inside your head, and even if I didn't have a disability, I probably still would have those feelings, because it's not natural, is it, to marry somebody on the same day that you meet? But it surprisingly went really well, and we hit it off like an house on fire, and we're not together now, but that's another story. But the experience in itself was amazing. I've learnt so much about myself, and I've been listening to your story, Emmalee, like behind the scenes, and everything that you've said I kind of resonate with, because it has been the same for me as well, within terms of like dating and things. Like, it is hard, but what I've learnt through that process is it's better to be vulnerable rather than having your walls up. I've learnt to accept and love myself for who I am. And they always say, like, you've got to love yourself first, haven't you, before you can let anybody else love you.
But how do you get to that point? Because I do see you, Jay, like, you show up confident,
Yeah.
like, very confident, self-assured, knowing your self-worth. I would imagine it hasn't always been that way for you.
No.
So how did you get to that point?
The way that you think about yourself and how you think that others perceive you. I used to think so negatively about myself. I just might as well have just got rid of all that, because that's not how people perceive you. They look at you like as maybe an inspiration, or, in terms of, they just look at you as you. Like, everybody looks at me now and be like, oh, it's just Jay. And people forget about it. Like, my mum and my sister forget about it all the time. They're like, yeah, we need you to solve these. And I'm like, wrong person to ask people. And they're like, oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot. Just forget.
What about the fetishizing?
Do whatever you want in your spare time, hon, do you know what I mean? If you like to do that, then that's entirely up to you. But some things, it's very inappropriate.
So does that happen, because I would imagine that sometimes you don't know, because anyone who's fetishizing, you have lots of reasons why people fetishize. But do you think that's the majority on these dating apps, or that's just the exception?
No, it's not the majority. I won't say it's everyone, is it?
I don't know, that's the thing. How do you know if they really want to date you just for you?
Perception. I used to say like perception is 80%, 60%. No, perception is everything. So we know fetishizing happens to all types of folks. Your concern is that you don't know whether or not someone is actually interested in you for you, or interested in you because they're trying to objectify you based on your amputated leg. How do you distinguish between someone who's into you versus fetishizing?
I think it's just asking the right questions.
Okay.
Like, I'm very to the point anyway, and I'm very straight up. But if I feel like something is, maybe sometimes the way that they talk to you, like they'll ask a specific question, you're like, hang on a minute, what do you mean by that? Personally, I would just ask it out as it is, and then then you've got your answer, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'd rather you be honest.
How would you ask that question?
I wouldn't necessarily ask the question until you've actually met them.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm with this, right? I think that part of the challenge with dating apps for everyone is everyone has this question that you have, Emmalee, and that is are you really into me, like for something real? Like, or is it because you just want sex tonight? Whatever it may be, we don't know. But that's the reason why going on the date is so important. But I think there's some vetting that you can do before you get on the date, right? One of them is, how many open-ended questions am I getting from them, opposed to just yes or no? Because an open-ended means that I actually have to think. But if I'm asking you specifically, what do you enjoy doing the most? That's open-ended. That requires there to be some thought on my end, given the information that you're giving me. So that's one kind of cue, is you look for this. The other is, how obsessed are they in terms of their questioning around whatever it is? Tell me about, how do you get your foot amputated? Send me, what was the person? Send me a video of you massaging it, right? Yeah. That is a clear indicator, because you know there is an obsession.
Yeah.
But then once you move to the date, and this is for everyone, is I always say you draw whatever boundary that you need to, and the moment that someone pushes to cross your boundary, that's the moment where you know they're not worthy of me. Because anyone who's truly into you, they'll respect the boundary. They'll say, oh, okay, Emmalee said, don't ask me about this anymore, or don't talk about this, then I'm not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And if they keep trying to edge you and edge you and edge you to cross that boundary, that's how you know that's an issue, right? But you don't know that until you are
on the date. It's not like just going on the date's the big problem for me. It's more like being vulnerable, like seeing me in the house when I have my leg off in my wheelchair downstairs, and on a night I'll crawl up my stairs, or I'm hopping when I'm getting out of bed in the middle of the night because I don't want to put my leg on. And I haven't obviously done anything sexually with anyone since my amputation, so it's what can I do in the bedroom? And I think it's hard anyway when you first start dating someone. It's awkward. Never mind having a leg missing. I'm not going to be able to do half the stuff I could do before. No one talks about it, and it's awkward to talk about. I don't really talk about stuff like this ever, and I feel like that's the main thing for me. The date's fine, but it's going past that. Okay.
So let's talk about that, because what you're talking now is you're in this, what I consider to be self-belief zone.
Yeah.
Of, I don't even believe this could happen, so therefore it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like the practicality of it. Mm-hmm. What I believe with all of my heart is that there's a lot of ignorant people out here who are what Carol Dweck in her book Mindset says is they're closed-minded. The closed-minded person, you're right. That poll that you talked about on Instagram, the closed-minded person is going to say, oh, I wouldn't want to do it. Mm. But the open-minded person, who, by the way, is the only person who's going to have a successful relationship, is the open-minded person. That person is going to say, let's go on a date. Let me see what you're all about. Let me learn about this military career. Let me learn about you. And then as they learn about you and you learn about them, what ends up happening is that you then become emotionally intimate. You then become safe. And once you become safe and you're emotionally intimate, you could talk about anything. And you could talk about everything.
Yeah.
And you could talk about, we haven't had sex yet. How are we going to make this happen? What are we going to do? Right? What is he going to, and Dr. Karen Gurney, who is a guest here, who is one of the top sex therapists in the world, said that the best sex comes as a result of what?
Talking.
The best communication.
Yeah. When you're asking these questions and things and you're meeting these people that you've never met before, like in past relationships, I used to think like that all the time, like they're not going to find me attractive at all. They're not even going to want to, have sex with me. They're just not going to find me attractive because they can get somebody that's got two limbs. However, that's not the case, because you could have two different people, one that, has got two arms, two legs, and somebody that is in our position, and they might get on with us a hell of a lot more with our personality and everything. They're more intrigued by us, compared to the other person. So it's all different, isn't it, about personal preference and things, and it's who you're going to get on with the most. Like people that I've been with previously, they just forget about it. And it doesn't bother them at all. You get to know the person first, and if they're not willing to be intimate with you or whatever, and it's all about looks for them, they're not worth it anyway. Not worth your time.
You mentioned that you have a challenge around anxiety.
Yeah.
Now, you know what anxiety is when you break it down?
Being uncomfortable.
In the future.
Okay.
That's the
Well,
key.
yeah. Because half the things I'm anxious about haven't even happened. It's what if.
Yeah.
So you have a fear of being uncomfortable in a scenario that has not even happened yet. Get comfortable just with the idea of how you feel in the moment. Don't think about the conversation around sex. Just think about, I want to be able to meet someone who I can have a conversation with, who I enjoy the conversation. Because I may not even enjoy their conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That should be the first step. And what I believe is that once you get to that step, then the next step becomes, okay, now that we can trade conversation back and forth, do we have the same values? So once you start talking about values, you have these conversations, and now you've met each other, you know that he shows up on time, he means what he says, he's mature, all of a sudden you feel safe with him. You are much less anxious about what is going to happen in the future because now you feel safe. And how you build the self-confidence muscle is you make small decisions. Like, okay, I have 6,000 people who swiped on me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select 3. In the next 2 months, I'm going to go out on a date with 3 of these people, right? Small, simple, actionable step. And in the date, I'm not even thinking about a second date. I just want to go just to experience it because I haven't been on a date in 2 years.
I don't even know if I've ever been on a date.
Ever?
No, because the guys that I was in a relationship with, I already knew them because we worked together. So that's a bit awkward. I don't drink either. Very rarely.
Don't need to have a drink.
You don't?
I know, but I'm not like...
So-
Go for a coffee.
Exactly. That's a better date.
Yeah.
And sober dating actually is one of the hottest trends in dating right now. If you ask someone to go on a date and meet them for coffee, or you go on a date and you say, I don't drink, and they have a problem with it, what do you say to them?
Well,
There's no point in carrying this on.
yeah.
One thing definitely that's clear, I think, for you, Emmalee, is that you have to draw boundaries and you have to be confident that you will uphold to your boundaries. A coffee date. A lot of people will say no to the coffee date, but that's your boundary, is a coffee date. If you hold to that, don't you feel confident that you'll feel more comfortable if they know ahead of time that you're not drinking?
Yeah, I suppose.
Someone who is genuinely interested in getting to know you is going to say, all right, I'll deal with that boundary because I want to get to know you. What would be your top concern once you're on the date?
Everybody looking, like knowing it was the first date or something.
Okay.
I just care what people think.
Okay.
And I hate it when someone doesn't like me because I know I'm a nice person.
Okay. So now let's investigate those two things. So you said everyone looking. So you're talking about what people in the
Wherever,
coffee
yeah.
shop.
Yeah.
I always feel, and I know it's like an anxious thing again, they'll probably think, well, why is he with her? Because she's got a leg missing or something. And it's just me.
I used to think that.
Well, why is he dating her when he could date someone with 2 legs? Or, do you know?
How did you resolve that?
Day by day, like little by little, just, be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And then the shift happens, and I don't know when it did happen for me. Like, it were quite a couple of years ago, but it's all about meeting the right person, and I know it takes time, and I'm not going to lie and sit here and say, like, it's all sunshine and rainbows, because it's not.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of admin involved, but you're not going to find that person if you don't do the admin.
If you're on that date and that person makes you feel safe, which I always say there's two things that you should look for on a first date. You should look for someone who's willing to have who's actively listening to you, and then there should be mutual physical attraction. If there's that, right, they're actively listening, there's mutual physical attraction, then you'll go on another date with that person, or you'll go on another first date with someone. The more that you're doing this, the more that you're going to realize, you know what? The question isn't whether or not people are looking at us to see, why is he with her? The question is, why is she with him?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's the shift.
That's the shift.
Yeah.
But it will take you going through that several times, because you build up your self-confidence, and then you build up your self-belief. And your circle also helps tremendously.
Yeah.
And I think this even speaks to the loneliness that you said that you felt.
Yeah. But I don't have that. Sorry, I don't have that like circular friends. Mine are all online now. We've obviously been around for 12 years, different places. So it's hard. Like, it's only my family where I live, and obviously everyone's scattered all around the UK.
This, I think this is a key piece, because it's hard to get to this to any of that unless you have a strong circle of people who are inspiring you, or you're aspiring to be like them. So let's talk about that piece for a little bit. Community-wise, how Jay, because you do have a strong community.
Yeah.
How did you build it, though, outside of your family? How did you
Outside of my family, it was mainly like growing up at school and things. But I've met friends along the way that I'm still really close to now, that I didn't grow up with when I was a child, and I'm still really close with them now. But that's just meeting them like through my other friends. So it could be a friend of a friend, or it's just, I'm quite confident anyway, and I do like to go out, but not just to drink, but just to socialise as well. Like, there's quite a couple of people that I know that don't drink at all, but they still go out.
Yeah.
But they just don't drink. It's just for the social side of it, because now everything is online. It is more difficult to actually meet these people like face to face. I mean, if you've got an online community, I get it, but it's not interacting like with a human. Do you know what I mean? It's over an app, it's over a phone, and that's another thing with the dating situation as well. But I found like the more that you go and push yourself that little bit, even if it's you're talking to somebody that's within your area through on social media or whatever, go and meet them for a coffee.
Yeah.
And that'll help you with the dating situation as well. So even if you did it from a friend's perspective, had like a little bit of a community within your area, go meet that somebody for a coffee and see if you can create a friendship that way. But then that will also give you the confidence to go out and meet men.
Our circle, people say, I think it's a Jim Rohn quote, where we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And if you're not spending time with people, then you end up just plateauing out. You know, there's no growth. But the stronger the people are that you surround yourself with, right? And that's why I always say, you know, I always say this with dating too, is people are like, you know, Paul, I want you to meet this person that I'm dating. I said, no, introduce me to the person you're dating's friends. Because now I'll know who you really are, based on the people that you surround, based on the people that you tolerate.
Again, with the online, you've got a big following, haven't you, on social media as well? And
That's
you've
what
got
I mean.
your online community. But if it were me, and this is just me personally, like speaking, like if that was my situation, I would speak to people online in terms of a friendship first, and then go and push my boundaries and meet up with a friend for a coffee. Or, you know, if you've been speaking to somebody within your online community for quite a while, meet them, and then that will give you the confidence little by little. It won't happen overnight, but it will help for the future interactions that you've got with, especially dating.
Yeah.
And then you never know, along the way, you might meet somebody in a coffee shop when you're sat there with a friend.
Oh, yeah.
And then you start off a conversation and you've got the vibe there. Yeah. Like, it can happen that way. It doesn't all have to start with online.
I love the fact that Jay's saying tap into this online community, but do it offline.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, is that there's so much online interaction that we're missing just the opportunity to sit across from one another.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one. Second thing is connecting to the fetishizing and a little bit around the belief is, I think, in setting boundaries is very important, and that'll help to reduce your anxiety. So to know ahead of time what your boundaries are and just know you're going to hold to it. We're not going to meet at a bar. There won't be, just so you know, I don't drink. Tell them ahead of time, right? And know that if someone can't hold to your boundary and they try to push you, that was not a person that was right for you anyway. When is the last time you had a conversation like this?
I don't think I've ever had a conversation like this.
That's what I was thinking. Think of how would your life change if you start having discussions like this often?
I think it would help a lot of people as well as me. I feel like people don't talk about like touchy subjects or hard subjects.
And the moment that we open up, as you did today, it creates what Jay has said that you need, and that is vulnerability.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So this is such a large step for you in opening up you and being vulnerable and being willing to change, because that's ultimately what vulnerability does.
Yeah.
And you will change specifically as a result of this conversation. The homework is going to be, we want to know about this event.
Yeah.
Right. That's one. Also, in creating boundaries, just select a handful that have swiped, that you kind of like the photos, you feel like the profile is decent, and set your boundaries and reach out to them.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to follow up on this homework.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I look forward to the update on all of those tasks. It's been lovely chatting to Emmalee, and I'm so grateful to Jay for sharing her experiences and advice. I truly believe that consistently taking small, actionable steps to move outside of one's comfort zone is key to overcoming loneliness and finding meaningful connections in life. Now, I want to thank all of our guests for their true courage in coming into our studio to share their deeply personal stories. I can't wait to catch up with them in the future to see how they're getting on with their new steps to move forward into the new year. I too have learned from our conversations, and as always, here are my takeaways from today's show. First, being open to help and brave enough to ask for it. It's a strength, not a weakness. Each of our guests today demonstrated this by coming on the show, sharing their stories and seeking insight and guidance. It's a reminder that no one achieves growth or success alone. Asking for help creates connection, invites perspective, and opens doors to solutions you may not see on your own. If they can take that first step, so can you. It all starts with being open to saying, I need help. Next, true strength lies in allowing yourself to be seen, flaws, fears, and all. Being vulnerable isn't about a weakness. It's about honesty. It's how we create deeper connections, foster understanding, and open the door to personal growth. When you embrace vulnerability, you give others permission to do the same, building trust and authenticity in relationships. The guests on this show exemplify that by sharing their truths, showing that vulnerability isn't a risk. It's a gateway to transformation and resilience. Embrace it and watch how your world begins to shift. And last, feeling alone, whether in your struggles or in life in general, can be deeply overwhelming, but it's often not the full reality. Many people who watch We Need to Talk have reached out to me to share that they've experienced similar feelings of loneliness and isolation. This is a powerful reminder that even when life feels solitary, there are countless others who understand and relate. Connection begins when we acknowledge these shared experiences and take steps to reach out. If you're feeling this way, remember to follow the actions and steps I've discussed with each of the 3 guests today. They are practical ways to move forward and find your community. And that's it. I'd like to thank you all, our viewers, for coming to watch this today. And please, if you get a second, drop us a comment to let us know what you thought of the conversations and how you think this advice may help you in your own lives moving forward into the new year. Also, don't forget to keep an eye on our social pages linked below, where we will be inviting more of you to come into the studio to share your stories in future episodes. And one last thing, don't forget, 9 in 10 of you are not subscribed yet. So if you can, hit that subscribe button to get all of our latest content. I can't wait to see you all in the next one, and I wish you all peace and love for the new year. Dating can often feel like a lot of pressure, especially when we're focused on finding the one. But what if we change the narrative with the help of today's show sponsor, Tinder? A great date might lead to you learning a new skill or discovering a hidden gem in your city. You might even meet a new lifelong friend. Sometimes it's just about enjoying the moment and sharing an experience with someone new. Tinder is a place for all types of relationships. Whether you're looking for love, friendship, or simply a great date, it's designed to help you explore every possibility. Dating isn't about success or failure. It's about the journey. So take the pressure off, open your mind, and embrace the adventure. Wherever it takes you, it starts with a swipe. Download Tinder today and see where your next connection might lead.